The Great Hall of Station Zenith 7 buzzed with the voices of 847 different species. Some spoke through translators. Others communicated with color changes on their skin. A few released scented chemicals into the air. This was the Galactic Council, and today was supposed to be just another ordinary meeting. Ambassador Dae-hyun stood quietly near the human delegation section. He was a tall man with gray hair and calm eyes. Next to him stood Commander Hae-jin, who led the human defense fleet. She wore her uniform with all her medals displayed. Behind them, 20 other human representatives waited in silence. The council chamber was enormous. It had to be, to fit so many different species. Some delegates floated in special tanks of water. Others needed extra hot or cold environments. The humans sat in a simple section with normal chairs and regular air. They always thought it was funny how other species needed so much special treatment when humans could adapt to almost anything. The Valkyr representative was speaking. He was a large creature with 4 arms and purple skin. His voice boomed through the chamber. The humans should send more ships to protect the outer regions. They have the most powerful fleet. It is their duty. Several other delegates made sounds of agreement. The Crystalline Collective, beings made of living glass, chimed in with their bell-like voices. Indeed, human technology is useful. They should share more of it with the council. For free, of course. Dae-hyun had heard this many times before. For 30 years, humanity had been part of the Galactic Council. For 30 years, they had given everything. Human ships protected trade routes. Human doctors cured diseases on alien worlds. Human engineers fixed broken stations. Human farmers taught new growing methods. Human diplomats solved conflicts between angry species, and for 30 years, the Council had treated humans like servants. Every proposal Earth made was rejected. Every time humans asked for a fair vote, they were laughed at. The other species called humans too emotional or too young to understand galactic politics. They said humanity was lucky to even be on the council, but humans kept serving anyway. They believed in the idea of the council. They wanted to be good members of the galactic community. They hoped that one day, the other species would see them as equals. That day never came. Dae-hyun waited for the Valkyr to finish talking. Then he stood up. The chamber slowly went quiet. Humans rarely spoke during council sessions anymore. Most species had forgotten they were even there. Honorable council members, Dae-hyun began. His voice was calm and clear. I have an announcement from Earth. The Valkyr laughed. Let me guess. You want another vote on that silly emotional rights proposal? Other delegates joined in the laughter. The humans wanted all species to be treated with basic dignity and respect. The council thought this was a joke. Emotions are weakness, they always said. Dae-hyun did not smile. He did not look angry. He just looked done. No, he said simply. Earth is withdrawing from the Galactic Council. Effective immediately, all human participation will end. We will complete our withdrawal in 30 days. The laughter stopped. For a moment, the entire chamber was silent. Then everyone started talking at once. What does this mean? Asked a Corvan delegate. They cannot just leave, shouted the crystalline representative. Dae-hyun continued speaking, his voice cutting through the noise. All human military forces will return to Earth space. All trade agreements with individual species will be reviewed and likely cancelled. All human medical staff will withdraw from alien worlds. All human-maintained technology will be shut down or transferred to Council control, if you can maintain it yourselves. Commander Hae-jin stepped forward. She held a data pad. Starting tomorrow, human ships will begin leaving their patrol zones. We have protected the disputed territories for 19 years without payment. That service ends now. We have maintained border security for dozens of species. That ends now. We have provided emergency response across 40 sectors. That also ends now. Izalo. The Valkyr representative stood up, all 4 arms waving. This is ridiculous. You cannot be serious. We are completely serious. Dae-hyun replied. For 3 decades, we have asked for respect. We have asked to be treated as equals. We have asked for our voices to be heard. You have refused every single time. You have used us, mocked us, and taken advantage of our goodwill. Now we are done. A small delegate from the Faroon species spoke up. Her voice was worried. But who will protect the shipping lanes? Who will respond to medical emergencies? Who will maintain the hyperspace relays? Dae-hyun looked at her with something like sadness. That is no longer humanity's problem. You are the Galactic Council. I am sure you will figure it out. The chamber erupted in chaos. Some species were angry. Others were confused. A few looked worried. The Valkyr representative was shouting about human obligations and duties. The Crystalline Collective was chiming loudly about contracts and agreements. Dae-hyun waited for them to quiet down. When they did not, he simply turned and walked toward the exit. The entire human delegation followed him. Commander Hae-jin was the last to leave. She turned at the doorway and looked back at the council. You always said humans were too emotional, she said quietly, but her voice carried in the large chamber. You were wrong. We are not leaving because we are angry or hurt. We are leaving because it is the logical choice. You take everything and give nothing. You demand respect but show none. That is not a partnership. That is exploitation. And humans do not accept exploitation anymore. Then she left too. The heavy doors closed behind the human delegation with a final, echoing boom. Back in the chamber, the delegates sat in stunned silence. Then the Valkyr started laughing again. They will be back, he said confidently. In a week, maybe 2. When they realize they need the council more than we need them. This is just a human tantrum. Nothing more. Many other delegates agreed. They could not imagine the galaxy without the council. And they definitely could not imagine that humanity was actually important. Humans were just one species, out of hundreds. How much could they really matter? As the council moved on to other business, Captain Tae-won was already aboard his flagship, the Destiny. He sent out the order to all human ships in the fleet. Begin withdrawal. All vessels return to Earth space. Leave nothing behind. Across the galaxy, human ships received the message. Slowly, carefully, they began to turn away from their posts. Posts they had held for years. Posts they had defended with their lives. Posts that protected species who did not even know their names. The withdrawal had begun, and the galaxy had no idea what was about to happen. The first week after humanity's announcement passed quietly. Too quietly. The Galactic Council held daily meetings, but mostly, they just complained about human arrogance. They were certain the humans would come back begging to rejoin. They had to. Everyone needed the council. That was just how the galaxy worked. On the 6th day, everything changed. A plague outbreak hit the Corvan homeworld. It started in the northern continent and spread fast. Within hours, thousands were sick. The Corvan government immediately called for help. They sent emergency requests to the Council's medical response network. Nobody answered. The Corvan leaders checked their systems. Everything was working. They sent the request again. Still nothing. Then they realized the problem. The Council Medical Response Network was actually just human medical ships. Humanity had been running the entire emergency medical system for the whole galaxy. They had done it so smoothly that nobody even noticed it was all humans doing the work. Medical Director Na Young received the Corvan distress call on Earth. She was a short woman with kind eyes, but her voice was firm when she replied. Earth's medical ships are no longer operating in Council space. We withdrew 6 days ago. Contact the Galactic Council for assistance. The Corvan tried. They called every council member they could reach. The Valkyr said they had no medical ships available. The Crystalline Collective said biological diseases were not their concern. The Faroon said they barely had enough doctors for their own people. By the time the Corvan realized nobody was coming, the death count had reached 50,000. Na Young watched the numbers climb on her monitor. Her hands shook a little. Other human doctors stood behind her, waiting for orders. Can we help them? Asked a young doctor named Kai Min. No, Na Young said softly. Not unless they ask Earth directly. Not unless they apologize for how they treated us. We are not part of the council anymore. These are the consequences of that choice. The plague continued to spread. The Corvan government finally swallowed their pride and contacted Earth directly, bypassing the council. They apologized. They begged for help. Na Young sent 3 hospital ships immediately, but by then, 4 million Corvans were infected. While the medical crisis unfolded, engineer Rin Su was working on Earth's orbital station. She was young but brilliant. Her job today was to shut down the hyperspace relay network in council space. These relays allowed ships to travel quickly between stars. Without them, space travel became very slow. The relays had been built by humans 20 years ago. Humans maintained them. Humans repaired them when they broke. The council never bothered to learn how they worked. They just used them and assumed someone else would handle the maintenance. Rin Su typed in the shutdown codes. One by one, the relays went dark. She felt a little sad doing it. She had helped build some of these relays herself. But orders were orders. Within hours, the effects were massive. Ships that used to make a journey in 2 days now took 2 weeks. Trade routes that were profitable became too expensive to run. Freighter captains found themselves stranded at stations, unable to afford the fuel for the longer trips. The council held an emergency meeting. "Turn the relays back on," demanded the Valkyr representative. "We cannot," admitted a technical officer. "We do not know how they work. The humans never shared the complete technical data." "Why not?" someone asked. "Because we told them to keep their primitive technology to themselves," another delegate said quietly. "We said we did not need their help understanding it." The chamber went silent again. In the disputed territories, things were getting worse. This region of space had always been lawless and dangerous. Pirates, raiders, and criminals made it their home. The only reason trade ships could pass through at all was because human patrol ships kept the area somewhat safe. Captain Ara Kim commanded the last human patrol in the territories. She was an experienced officer who had spent 12 years protecting these shipping lanes. Her crew knew every pirate base, every hiding spot, every dangerous asteroid field. "All ships, begin withdrawal," she ordered. Her voice was steady, but she felt angry inside. Angry at the council for wasting so many years of human service. Angry at herself for believing it would matter. The human ships left the territories. Within 3 days, the pirates noticed. Within a week, they started raiding again. Merchant ships that had traveled safely for years suddenly found themselves under attack. Pirates who had been quiet, afraid of human retaliation, became bold again. A Faroon freighter sent a distress call. They were being boarded by raiders. They screamed for help. Captain Ara Kim received the message. Her ship was close enough to respond in 20 minutes. She did not respond. "Captain," her first officer said, "we can save them." "We could." Ara Kim agreed. "But we are not council peacekeepers anymore. We are Earth military. Operating in Earth interests only. That freighter is not our responsibility." The distress calls continued for 10 minutes. Then they stopped. The Faroon ship was lost with all crew. It was the first of many. On Earth, economist Yong Nam was watching the galactic financial markets collapse in real time. He was an older man who had spent 40 years studying galactic economics. He had created most of the trading algorithms that the council used. He had designed the credit verification system. He had built the fraud detection network, and now he was watching it all fall apart. Without human oversight, the markets became chaotic. Species started refusing to honor contracts, claiming the other side was cheating. Without human arbitration, there was nobody to verify who was telling the truth. The unified credit system that allowed easy trade between species began to fail. Banks that relied on Earth's economic backing suddenly had no backing at all. Yongnam received hundreds of calls from alien financial institutions. They wanted him to fix it. They offered money, resources, anything. He politely declined every request. "I am retired from galactic economics," he told them. "Perhaps the council's own economists can help you." The problem was that the council did not have any good economists. They had never needed them. Humanity had been handling all of that for free. By the end of the first week, the Galactic Council was starting to panic. The medical crisis on Corvin was still spreading. The hyperspace network was down. Pirate attacks had increased by 300%. The financial markets were crashing. And the humans were not answering any calls. The Council sent a delegation to Earth, 5 important ambassadors from major species. They arrived at Earth's orbital station and requested a meeting with human leadership. Ambassador Dae-hyun met them in a simple conference room. He offered them water and chairs appropriate to their biology. Then, he sat down and waited. The Velkir ambassador spoke first. "We are here to discuss terms for humanity's return to the Council." Dae-hyun nodded. "I see. What are you offering?" The question surprised them. "Offering?" The Velkir repeated. "Yes," Dae-hyun said calmly. "You want humanity to return, to provide military protection, medical services, technical support, and economic stability. What are you offering in exchange?" The delegates looked at each other. They had not prepared for this question. They had assumed humans would be grateful just to be back on the Council. "We offer you continued membership," the crystalline representative chimed. Dae-hyun smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "We do not want membership. We had membership. It was worthless. You used our service, rejected our ideas, and insulted our values. Why would we want that again?" "But the Council needs," the Faroon started to say. "The Council needs humanity." Dae-hyun interrupted. "Yes, we know. We have known for 30 years. But what does humanity need from the Council? Can you answer that?" None of them could. Dae-hyun stood up. "Thank you for visiting Earth. I am afraid we have nothing more to discuss. Please leave Council space within 24 hours. After that, we will consider your presence a territorial violation." The delegation left, shocked and angry. They had never been spoken to like that before. On their ship back to Council space, they argued about what to do next. Meanwhile, the galaxy continued to break apart, piece by piece. By the third week, the galaxy was falling apart faster than anyone had imagined possible. The Galactic Council met every day now. Sometimes twice a day. But meetings could not solve problems when nobody knew how to fix anything. The Velkir Imperium was the first major government to collapse. For 200 years, they had been expanding their territory, conquering smaller species, and forcing them to join their empire. They had gotten away with it because human peacekeepers enforced the treaties that kept these conquered species from rebelling. The treaties said the Velkir had to treat their subjects fairly and could not use excessive force. But now the humans were gone. On the planet Celis 4, the conquered Silesian people had waited for this moment. They had suffered under Velkir rule for 50 years. They had begged the Council for help many times. The Council always said the same thing. "The treaty protects you. Follow proper procedures. File the correct forms." Those forms went to human peacekeepers, who would investigate and force the Velkir to follow the rules. Without humans, the forms went nowhere. The Silesian rebellion started at dawn. Within 3 days, they had liberated their entire planet. The Velkir sent warships to crush the rebellion, but they found 2 problems. First, their military was much smaller than they thought. They had been depending on human ships to back them up for so long that they had never built a strong fleet of their own. Second, 11 other conquered species saw what Celis 4 did and started their own rebellions. The Velkir Empire, which had seemed so powerful just weeks ago, was now fighting wars on 15 different fronts. They screamed at the Council to send help. The Council had no help to send. While the Velkir Empire burned, scientist Ho Jin was working in his laboratory on Earth. He was a quiet man who rarely spoke at Council meetings, but he was one of humanity's greatest minds. He had invented the quantum computing network that connected the entire galaxy. Every major computer system, from navigation to communication to data storage, ran on his network. The Council had never paid him for it. They just used it and assumed it would always be there. Ho Jin entered the shutdown sequence. The quantum network began to disconnect, piece by piece. He had built in a 30-day grace period, giving the council time to switch to their own systems. If they had their own systems, they did not. Council communication channels went dark. Species could no longer coordinate with each other easily. Navigation systems that relied on quantum calculations stopped working. Ships had to go back to using old, slow methods to plot courses. Data transfers that used to take seconds now took hours or days. On the station Zenith 7, technical staff ran around in panic. "We need the humans to fix this," they shouted at their supervisors. "The humans are gone," the supervisors shouted back. But there was nothing to figure out. The technology was too advanced. It would take decades to understand it, and decades more to rebuild it. The galaxy had jumped ahead technologically by using human innovations. Now they were falling back down to where they should have been all along. The food crisis hit in week 4. Agricultural specialist Sol Mi had spent 20 years traveling to different worlds, teaching better farming methods. She had introduced crop rotation techniques. She had brought genetically modified seeds that could grow in harsh climates. She had designed irrigation systems that used minimal water. 40 planets depended on these methods to feed their people. They had grown their populations based on the increased food production. But they had never learned to maintain the systems themselves. They always just called Sol Mi when something went wrong, and she fixed it. Now when they called, she did not answer. Crop failures started appearing across the galaxy. On some worlds, the irrigation systems broke, and nobody knew how to repair them. On others, the modified crops failed because farmers did not understand the proper planting cycles. Food shortages became food emergencies. Food emergencies became famines. The council received desperate requests for help. They had no help to give. They tried to organize food shipments between planets. But the broken hyperspace network made shipping too expensive. They tried to send agricultural experts, but they did not have any who understood human farming methods. Defense analyst Quan Seo was preparing a report for Earth's government. She was a sharp woman who noticed things others missed. For years, she had been tracking military contributions to council operations. The numbers she found were shocking. Humanity made up only 2% of the council's total population, but they provided 89% of all military forces used in peacekeeping. The other species had become so comfortable with human protection that most of them had reduced their own militaries to almost nothing. Why spend money on defense when the humans would protect you for free? Quan Seo presented her findings to Earth's leadership. "The council cannot defend itself," she concluded. "Without us, they are helpless." Events proved her right. Border disputes that had been quiet for decades suddenly exploded into violence. The Thaxian Collective and the Morn Kingdoms had been arguing over a mineral-rich system for 70 years. Human peacekeepers had kept them from actually fighting. Now those peacekeepers were gone. War broke out within days. Both sides were shocked by how rusty their militaries had become. Ships broke down. Weapons malfunctioned. Soldiers were poorly trained. The war was a disaster for everyone involved, but neither side could stop. Pride would not let them back down. 3 other border wars started the same week. The council tried to negotiate peace, but nobody listened to them anymore. The council had no power without human military backing it up. On Zenith 7, the emergency council session was the worst yet. The chamber was half empty. Many species had stopped sending representatives because travel was too difficult with the broken hyperspace network. The delegates who did attend were angry, scared, or both. "This is humanity's fault," the Velkir representative shouted. He looked terrible. His empire was falling apart, and he was desperately looking for someone to blame. "No," said the Faroon delegate quietly. "This is our fault. We treated the humans like servants. We took everything they gave and never once said thank you. We mocked them for having emotions while we benefited from their compassion. We called them primitive while using their technology. And now we are paying the price for our arrogance. What do we do?" asked a crystalline representative. Their normally bright surface looked dim and gray. The Faroon delegate had no answer. Nobody did. In the back of the chamber, A small species called the Quinn had been watching quietly. Their representative stood up. She was tiny, barely 3 feet tall, with large eyes and soft fur. She had been part of the council for only 5 years. "I am leaving the council," she announced. "My people are going to contact Earth directly and ask to join their alliance. We will apologize for staying silent when we should have defended them. We will ask for their forgiveness and their friendship, and we will hope they are more merciful than we were." She left the chamber. Within the hour, 4 other species announced they were doing the same thing. The Galactic Council was not just losing human support, it was losing its members. Species were abandoning the Council to seek Earth's protection instead. The great alliance that had lasted for centuries was falling apart in real time. Captain Tae-won stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the chaos unfold on the long-range scanners. War in 6 sectors, famine warnings on 20 worlds, economic collapse spreading like a disease. He felt no satisfaction in watching the Council suffer. He just felt tired. "Should we help them, sir?" his first officer asked. Tae-won shook his head. "We tried to help them for 30 years. They did not want our help. They wanted our service. There is a difference. Now they are learning what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness." On Earth, Ambassador Dae-hyun received his 100th message from the Council. This one was from the Council chair being herself, the highest authority in the galactic government. The message was simple. "Please. We need to talk." Dae-hyun read it and felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, just a deep sadness for all the wasted years. He wrote back a single line. "You know where Earth is. We will listen when you are ready to offer something besides demands." The galaxy continued to break, and humanity watched from a distance, wondering if the other species would ever understand what they had lost. The galactic economy died on a Tuesday. Financial expert Wu Han was eating breakfast when it happened. He was watching the market feeds on his wall display, something he had done every morning for 40 years. The numbers had been declining for weeks, but this morning, they simply stopped making sense. The unified credit system, the currency that allowed trade between 800 different species, crashed completely. One moment it existed. The next moment it was worthless. Banks across the galaxy announced they would no longer accept council credits. Species began refusing to honor contracts written in credits. Within hours, the entire foundation of galactic trade had evaporated. Wu Han put down his coffee and called his team. "It is over," he said simply. "The system has completely failed." "Wu, can we fix it?" asked his assistant, a young man named Tae Bin. "We could," Wu Han replied. "But we will not. We built that system. We maintained it. We guaranteed it, with Earth's economic power. The Council took it all for granted. Now they can build their own system. If they can. Without a unified currency, trade became almost impossible. Species tried to negotiate direct exchanges, but it was chaos. How many Velkir energy crystals equal 1 Faroon food shipment? Nobody knew. Every transaction became an argument. Many species just stopped trading entirely. The Council's economy, already weakened, simply collapsed. Ambassador Dae-hyun received an urgent message on day 27 of the withdrawal. It was marked Priority 1 and came directly from the Council chair being. He almost deleted it without reading. Earth had received hundreds of messages from the Council over the past month. All of them demanded or begged. None of them offered, but something made him open this one. Ambassador Dae-hyun, the message began. "I am writing to ask if Earth would be willing to negotiate terms for resuming relations. Not for rejoining the Council. For the Council to join whatever new organization Earth is building. We understand now that we were wrong. Please. Talk to us." Dae-hyun read the message 3 times. Then he wrote back a single question. "What can you offer us that we do not already have?" "Ooh." He sent the message and waited. The reply came 6 hours later. "Nothing," the chair being admitted. "We have nothing you need. But we are asking anyway. Not because we deserve your help. Because we need it. And because we hope humans are better than we were." Dae-hyun sat back in his chair. He felt something he had not expected to feel. Not satisfaction, not anger. Just deep, bone-tired sadness. They finally understood. But it was too late. While Dae-hyun considered his response, Medical Director Na-young was dealing with another crisis. The Korvan plague had finally been contained, but the damage was enormous. 4 million dead. 8 million more who would carry the effects for the rest of their lives. But that was not the only medical emergency. Without human medical ships and human doctors, basic healthcare had collapsed across dozens of worlds. Disease that used to be easily treated were now deadly again. Injuries that human surgeons could fix were now permanent. Child mortality rates were climbing. Life expectancy was dropping. Species that had apologized to Earth, that had left the Council to ask for human friendship, were receiving help. Human medical ships had returned to their space, and human doctors were saving lives again, but only for those who had shown respect. The species that remained loyal to the Council, that still insisted they were in the right, received no help at all. Their people suffered while they watched their neighbors thrive under human protection. Na-young received desperate calls every day from worlds where people were dying. Every call asked the same thing. Please help us. She gave them all the same answer. Contact Earth's diplomatic corps and negotiate. Apologize for how you treated us. Agree to treat us as equals. Then we can talk about medical assistance. Some did, many did not. Pride killed more people than the diseases did. In the disputed territories, the situation had become a nightmare. Captain Ara Kim received regular reports from her intelligence network. The reports told of merchant ships being raided almost daily, entire stations being captured by pirates. Trade routes that had been safe for decades were now death traps. 3 major shipping companies had gone bankrupt. 5 mining colonies had been abandoned. Hundreds of civilian ships had been destroyed. The death toll was climbing into the hundreds of thousands, and still the Council did nothing. They could not. Without human military power, they had no way to project force into the territories. Their few remaining warships were busy dealing with the border wars breaking out everywhere else. Captain Ara Kim did not feel good about the suffering. She had spent years protecting those trade routes. She had known many of the merchants who were now dead. But orders were orders. Earth's military served Earth's interests only. Everyone else could solve their own problems. On Zenith 7, the Council chamber looked empty. Only 60 species still sent regular representatives. The rest had either left the Council completely or simply stopped attending meetings. There was no point. The Council could not help with anything anymore. The Velkyr representative was gone. The Velkyr Empire had fractured into 7 different states, all fighting each other. The Crystalline Collective had withdrawn into isolation, refusing all contact with other species. The Thaxian and Morn were still at war, destroying each other over a system that was no longer worth fighting for. The chair being stood at the podium, looking out at the nearly empty chamber. She was a Lindari, a species known for their wisdom and long memory. She had been chair being for 40 years. She had seen the Council at its peak. And now she was watching it die. We failed, she said quietly. The chamber was so empty that her voice echoed. We had the most precious gift in the galaxy, a species willing to sacrifice for others, a species that believed in community and service, a species that asked only to be respected in return, and we threw that gift away because we were too proud to see its value. The few remaining delegates sat in silence. What could they say? She was right. I am resigning as chair being, she continued. I am going to Earth to beg for forgiveness on behalf of my people. I do not know if they will accept, but I have to try. I have to try. She left the chamber. The delegates sat in stunned silence. Then, slowly, they began to leave too. The session ended early. There was nothing left to discuss. Commander He Jin completed the final military withdrawal on day 30. Not a single human warship remained in Council space. The great fleet that had protected the galaxy for 3 decades was now stationed entirely in Earth's territory and around the worlds of Earth's new allies. She stood on the bridge of her command ship, looking at the deployment map. Earth's borders were secure. Earth's allies were protected. Everyone else was on their own. Did we do the right thing? Her tactical officer asked. Jin thought about it. She thought about all the years of service, all the lives saved, all the battles fought, all the respect they had never received. Yes, she said finally. We did. Sometimes the right thing feels terrible, but that does not make it wrong. We gave them every chance. They chose to waste it. On Earth, the government was making plans for the future. They had received applications from 23 species who wanted to join what was being called the Terran Alliance. These were species that had apologized for their past behavior, species that agreed to Earth's terms. Mutual respect, shared sacrifice, equal voices in decision-making. It was everything the Galactic Council should have been, but never was. Engineer Rin Su was working on a new hyperspace relay network. This one would only connect Terran Alliance members. It would be faster and more efficient than the old Council network, and it would be completely separate. The galaxy was splitting into two parts. The Terran Alliance, prosperous and growing stronger every day. And the old Council space, falling deeper into chaos with each passing hour. Ambassador Dae Hyun stood in Earth's council chamber, preparing to give a speech to the assembly. He had been asked to explain the past month, to justify the withdrawal, to defend humanity's choice, but as he looked at the assembled leaders, he realized he did not need to justify anything. Earth had done nothing wrong. They had simply stopped letting others do wrong to them. The galaxy is learning a hard lesson, he told the assembly. They are learning that kindness is not weakness, that service is not servitude, that respect must be mutual, or it means nothing. Some will learn this lesson and grow. Others will refuse to learn and fall. That is their choice to make. Our choice is to move forward, to build something better, to prove that humanity's way, the way of equals working together, is stronger than the Council's way of masters and servants. The Assembly voted unanimously to continue the current policy. No return to the Council, continued growth of the Terran Alliance, continued separation from those who refused to change. In the final hours of Day 30, the last human civilian ships left Council space. Teachers who had been educating alien children. Engineers who had been maintaining infrastructure. Scientists who had been sharing knowledge. All gone. The galaxy that humanity left behind was broken, chaotic, and afraid. And somewhere in that chaos, the first seeds of understanding were finally beginning to grow. 3 months after humanity's departure from the Galactic Council, the galaxy looked nothing like it had before. The changes were so massive that future historians would mark this as the beginning of a new era. Director Jin Lee stood in front of Earth's assembly, holding a datapad filled with reports. She was the head of Earth's External Affairs Department, responsible for tracking everything happening beyond Earth's borders. The numbers she had to share were staggering. The old Galactic Council still exists, she began, but barely. Only 60 species remain as members. The rest have either formed regional coalitions, isolated themselves completely, or applied to join the Terran Alliance. The Council's territory has shrunk by 70%. Their economy is operating at less than 20% of previous levels. Their military capacity is essentially zero. The Assembly listened in silence. Some members looked sad. Others looked satisfied. Most just looked thoughtful. Jin Lee continued. The species that apologized to us and joined the Terran Alliance are thriving. 37 species are now members. Their economies are growing. Their people are healthier. Their territories are secure. Everything the Council promised but never delivered, we are actually providing. The difference is that it is based on mutual benefit and respect, not exploitation. One Assembly member raised a hand. What about Earth itself? How are we doing? Jin Lee smiled. Earth's economy has grown by 40% in 3 months. Our technology sector is booming because we are no longer giving away our innovations for free. Our military is stronger because we are no longer spreading our forces thin, protecting ungrateful aliens. Our people are happier because they see their government standing up for them, In every measurable way, leaving the council was the best decision we ever made. The assembly chamber filled with the sound of agreement. While Earth celebrated its success, the Terran Alliance was growing stronger every day. Engineer Rin Su had completed the new hyperspace relay network. It connected all 37 Alliance member worlds in a web of fast, efficient travel and communication. The network was more advanced than anything the old council had ever built. But the network had one important feature. It was closed. Only Alliance members could access it. Everyone else had to use the old, broken council relays, or travel the slow way. Species that had stayed loyal to the council watched with envy as Alliance ships zipped through space in days, while their own ships took weeks. They watched Alliance worlds prosper, while their own worlds struggled. They watched everything they had taken for granted slip away to this new organization that they could not join unless they changed. Some species refused to change. The Velkir remnants, now 7 separate nations, still insisted they had done nothing wrong. They claimed humanity had betrayed the galaxy. They said the council would rise again once humans realized their mistake. But reality told a different story. The largest Velkir nation had lost 60% of its territory to rebellions. Their economy was in ruins. Their people were hungry, and still they refused to apologize to Earth or ask for help. Pride was killing them, but they could not let it go. Other species were wiser. The Lindari, led by their former chair being, had been the first to formally apologize to Earth. They admitted that the council had treated humanity terribly. They asked for forgiveness and requested membership in the Terran Alliance. Ambassador De Hyun had personally met with the Lindari chair being. She was an old woman, dignified even in her humility. "We do not deserve your help," she had told him. "But I am asking anyway. My people are suffering. Not because of what you did, but because of what we failed to do. We should have defended you in the council. We should have spoken up when others mocked you. We should have recognized your value. We did none of those things. And now we are paying the price." Dae Hyun had looked at her for a long moment. Then he had smiled, the first genuine smile he had worn in months. "Your people are welcome in the Terran Alliance. Not because we want revenge. Not because we want you to grovel. But because you learned the lesson we tried to teach for 30 years. Respect and humility are strengths, not weaknesses." The Lindari joined the alliance and immediately began to prosper. Other species watched and learned. Captain Tae-won was overseeing the defense of alliance space. The new borders were smaller than what humanity used to protect, but they were much more secure. Alliance members contributed their own ships to patrol duty. Everyone shared the burden. Nobody took advantage. It was everything the old council system should have been. Tae-won received regular intelligence reports about the chaos in old council space. 3 more border wars had started. Pirate activity was at levels not seen in centuries. Several governments had collapsed entirely. It was a disaster. But it was not Earth's disaster anymore. "Should we intervene?" asked his second officer, a young woman named Bo Ra from the Lindari species. The Alliance military was integrated now, with humans and aliens serving together. "No," Tae-won said. "We intervened for 30 years. It changed nothing. People only learn when they face the consequences of their choices. The council chose arrogance. Now they are learning what arrogance costs." Agricultural specialist Sol Mi was having the time of her life. She was traveling to Alliance worlds, teaching her farming methods to species that actually wanted to learn. They asked questions, they took notes, they implemented her suggestions and then improved on them. It was the way cooperation was supposed to work. The Alliance worlds were producing more food than ever. Famines were becoming a thing of the past in Alliance territory. Meanwhile, old council space was facing the worst food shortages in recorded history. Sol Mi felt sad about the suffering, but she also felt vindicated. She had offered to teach these methods to everyone for free. The council species had been too proud to learn from primitive humans. Now they were starving while Alliance members prospered. On Zenith 7, the remaining council members held a meeting. The chamber that once held 847 species now held barely 50. The chair being position was vacant. Nobody wanted the job of leading a dying organization. A Faroon delegate stood up. "We should dissolve the council," she said. "It is over. We all know it. We should formally end this and let each species do what they need to do." "No," said a crystalline representative. "If we dissolve, we are admitting the humans were right. We are admitting we failed." "We did fail," the Faroon replied quietly. "The humans were right. And pretending otherwise will not change that truth." The debate went on for hours. Some wanted to keep fighting. Others wanted to surrender. Nobody had any good ideas. Finally, a message came through. It was from Earth. From Ambassador Dae-Hyun. The message was broadcast to the entire council chamber. Dae-Hyun's voice was calm and measured. "The Terran Alliance is aware that the Galactic Council is struggling. We are opening our application process to any species that wishes to join the Alliance. The requirements are simple. Formal apology for past treatment of humanity. Agreement to our Charter of Mutual Respect and Shared Responsibility. And a probationary period of 5 years. After 5 years of good membership, you will have full voting rights equal to any other member, including Earth." He paused. "This offer is permanent. It will be available tomorrow, next month, next year. Whenever you are ready to change, we are ready to welcome you. But we will not compromise our standards. We will not accept members who still think they are superior to others. We will not recreate the Council's mistakes. You are welcome to join us as equals. You are not welcome to join us as anything else." The message ended. The council chamber sat in silence. Then, slowly, delegates began to leave. Some were going to talk to their governments about joining the alliance. Others were leaving in anger, still refusing to accept reality. The chamber emptied until only a few remained. The era of the Galactic Council was over. 6 months after the withdrawal, Ambassador Dae-Hyun gave a speech to the Terran Alliance Assembly. All 37 member species sent representatives. The chamber was full of different beings, all working together as genuine equals. "We did not leave the Galactic Council because we wanted to hurt them," Dae-Hyun said. "We left because we refused to be hurt anymore. We left because we deserved better. And in leaving, we discovered something important. We did not need the Council. We never did. What we needed was respect, partnership, and fair treatment. The Council would not give us those things, so we built our own organization that would." He looked around the chamber at the assembled species: humans, Lindari, Faroon, Quinn, and dozens of others. Former enemies sitting together, former strangers, now friends. "The Terran Alliance is proof that there is a better way," he continued. "A way based on mutual benefit instead of exploitation. A way where strength is used to protect, not to dominate. A way where every voice matters, not just the voices of the powerful. This is what humanity always believed was possible. Thank you for believing it with us." The chamber erupted in applause. Different species had different ways of showing approval. Some clapped. Others made sounds. A few changed colors. But all were united in their support. On Earth, people celebrated. Children learned in school about the day humanity stood up for itself. Workers enjoyed the prosperity that came from fair trade, with grateful partners. Soldiers protected borders that mattered, instead of risking their lives for species that did not care. In old council space, the chaos continued. Some species finally swallowed their pride and applied to join the alliance. They apologized, meant it, and were welcomed. Others refused and continued to decline. The galaxy was sorting itself into those who could adapt and those who could not. Commander Haijin stood on an observation deck, looking out at the stars. Captain Ara Kim joined her, holding 2 cups of coffee. "Do you think they learned?" Ara asked, offering 1 cup to Haijin. Haijin took the coffee and thought about the question. "Some did," she said finally. "Some never will. But that is not our problem anymore. We spent 30 years trying to teach them. Now we are spending our energy on those who actually want to learn. That is the difference between wisdom and foolishness. Wisdom knows when to stop banging your head against a wall. They stood together, watching the ships of the Alliance move through space. Human ships, Lindari ships, Quinn ships, all flying together in perfect coordination. We built something better. Ara said. Yes, Heijin agreed. We did, and we did it by walking away from something worse. Somewhere in the vastness of space, a former council world sent another application to join the Terran Alliance. They had finally learned the lesson. Respect must be earned and given freely. Partnership must be equal. And humanity, the species they had once called primitive and emotional, had been right all along. The galaxy would never be the same. And that was exactly how it should be.